The slope of a line is the rate of change of that line. The rate of change is measured as a ratio. And the ratio is vertical change to horizontal change. The variable we use to represent slope is m. M can be defined as the rise over the run. Rise is your vertical change, run is your horizontal change. Symbolically, it can be written as delta y over delta x. This triangle is the Greek letter delta, and delta means change. So the change in y over the change in x. Well, the change in y is your rise, and the change in x is your run. Now mathematically, if we want to find change, we need to find the difference. How much a value has changed, we're going to subtract those values. So the change in y is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. An example. Find the slope between 1/2 -3 and -4 -5. 1/2 -3 and -4 -5 are 2 points. To find the slope of that line that goes through those 2 points, we're going to use the slope formula. It doesn't matter which point we pick to be x1, y1 and which one to be x2, y2, so I'm just going to go in order. If I switch these around and made these points x2, y2 and these x1, y1, I'm going to get the same slope. The slope from here to here is the same as the slope from here to here. Once I've labeled my points, I just plug them into the formula. The slope equals y2, -5, minus y1, -3, over x2, -4, minus x1, 1/2. Now this fraction bar is a grouping symbol. It says do all the work in my numerator and all the work in my denominator and then divide. So I'm going to do that. -5 minus -3 is -5 plus 3. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding. And in my denominator, 1/2 is a fraction. And in order to subtract fractions, I need a common denominator. And the common denominator between 2 and 1 is 2. So I'm going to rewrite -4 over 1 as -8 over 2. Because -8 over 2 is -4. And 1/2 I'm just going to leave as 1/2. Now again, I'm going to keep my numerator and my denominator different. I'm going to keep them separate until the very last step. -5 plus 3 is -2. And to subtract fractions, I'm going to keep my common denominator and I'm going to subtract my numerators. So I have -8 minus 1. This negative sign is going to attach itself to that 8. So I have -8 minus 1, which gives me -9. It's only now that I'm going to do this division. I have -2 divided by -9/2. I have -2 divided by -9/2. In order to divide fractions, I'm going to keep my first number the same, -2. I'm going to switch the division sign to a multiplication, and my second number, this negative 9/2, I'm going to switch to the reciprocal, negative 2/9. Notice that it's not the opposite reciprocal, it's just the reciprocal. So I switch to the inverse, and I switch to the inverse. So now I have negative 2 times negative 9/2. Well, negative 2 is negative 2 over 1, and now I can just multiply straight across. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives me positive 4. 1 times 9 is 9. So my slope is 4/9. Notice that my slope is a fraction, and that fraction is written in lowest terms. I don't want my slope to be a decimal. I don't want my slope to be a mixed number. I want my slope to be a fraction in lowest terms.